Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and I've got another start and sit video to help you guys out with your Week 12 fantasy lineups. Now, of course, there are some great matchups this week, and there are 4 teams on a bye. You got the Broncos, Commanders, the Chargers, and the Dolphins, so some good running backs that will not be playing this week. So let's jump right into it. So week 12 of the NFL season is here, and we've got some great games coming up, and a lot of games that really determine where you're going to finish with your fantasy playoffs, because we are just about there. We are weeks and weeks away, so hopefully you guys have come out with a great strategy. Check out my waiver wire video, and of course, check out all my start and sit videos. Now, these are your obvious starts at the running back position. These guys have great matchups, or they are just matchup proof. No matter what happens, they have been very successful. Now, the first running back I'm going to mention as a good start is going to be TreVeyon Henderson versus the Bengals. Now, here's the deal. We're not sure what's going to happen with Ramondre Stevenson. He is expected to be back this week, which means there's a good chance that Vrabel decides to use both running backs, and that kind of scares me a little bit. With that said, though, I hope he goes with a hot hand because TreVeyon Henderson has been the hot hand. In the last 4 weeks alone, he is RB3 coming into this week. He has been amazing. He's got 4 touchdowns in those 4 games. He has played out of his mind, averaging 5.6 yards a game. And then he's going against a team like the Bengals, who are the worst in the league against the run. They're allowing the most rushing yards, 137 yards on the ground, about a touchdown per game, and 28 points per game as well. So the matchup is really good for TreVeyon Henderson. I really hope he is going to be the guy who gets most of the touches and Ramondre kind of sits back a little bit, but we'll see. Running backs have lost their starting lineup, like Chuba Hubbard, due to injury, and this could be the case with that one. Now, another running back I really like is Travis Etienne versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals aren't horrible, but they're not great. They're allowing about 20 points per game to the running back position and just under 100 rushing yards, but they are allowing a touchdown per game to the running back position. Now, Tune was starting off really well for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there's a chance if he does end up being healthy this week, he may continue that, and it may be a hot hand type of situation. We're not sure where Liam Cohen really feels about his running backs, but Travis Etienne ended up having 2 touchdowns after Tootin went down, and currently Travis Etienne in the last 4 weeks is running back 10 in fantasy points. Now, his average per yard is, 3.8 is the worst. Like, he has not played really well besides Etienne Denty. Genty has probably been the worst the last 4 weeks as well. Those guys are not getting a lot, and a lot of it has to do with the offensive line. The offensive line isn't playing great. I do think Tune is a lot more explosive, which is where he's been able to take advantage of that offensive line not playing great. But I do like Travis Etienne a lot. I think he ends up having a pretty good game against this team. I think the Jaguars end up beating the Cardinals, being up pretty heavily, where I think they actually end up having some success. Another running back I really like is Rico Dowdle versus the 49ers. Rico Dowdle right now, currently running back 7 going into this week. In the last 4 weeks, he has been playing great. Again, not averaging a lot, 3.7 yards per carry, which has been kind of hard for him. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Panthers have been playing behind and they've had to use Bryce Young and obviously having him trying to win these games for them. But Dowdle still has a really good matchup this week. The 49ers have not played great against running backs. They're allowing about 17 points per game, about 4 yards a carry. Again, pretty good defense, but not great. They have been pretty successful overall for the season. They've been struggling a little bit, but they've gotten a little bit better in the last few weeks. But I do think because Rico Dowdle will have the ability to get a lot more touches and the ability to obviously just get starting off the game with him on the ground and a touchdown possibly, this is a really good week. And the last running back is Derrick Henry versus the Jets. Jets, they're not bad, right? But they're not great. They're allowing about 100 yards on the ground, just over 4 yards a carry. But this is a really good matchup for Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry in the last 4 weeks is currently running back 11. He has definitely improved overall in the last few weeks. Part of it is I think they're just trusting him. Obviously, having Lamar Jackson back is huge. He's averaging just over 5 yards a carry. Only 1 touchdown, though. And, of course, he's not been getting a lot of receptions. That's not his game. So that's where you're hoping that the Ravens are up big enough against the Jets, which they should be, right? The Jets aren't a great defense or a great team in general. So there should be some success there. And Derrick Henry should be able to get close to 80 to 100 yards on the ground. Now, as far as running backs, I'm going to sit. The first one's going to be Tyrone Tracy versus the Lions. Lions are actually a really good defense against the run. They're second best, only allowing 12 points per game, only 76 yards on the ground. They're not allowing a lot of touchdowns. They are allowing about about 4 receptions per game and just over 4 yards a carry. But the other thing is, Tyron Tracy will have to share the ball with Devin Singletary. Singletary has obviously been pretty good as well, but both running backs have not played great. We'll see if Jackson Dart ends up playing this week. We're making sure that he obviously clears his concussion protocol. But Tracy's coming off of a game where he actually ended up putting up 17 fantasy points, which is why I put him on here, because some people may want to put him in their lineup just because they're hoping to get similar success. I don't think that's going to end up happening, which is why, again, I don't trust him this week. Another running back I don't really like this week can be Chase Brown versus the Patriots. The Patriots are the best team against the run. They're only allowing 58 yards on the ground. They're only allowing 11 points per game. Only allowing 3.4 yards per attempt. Where running backs have had some success is in the air. They're getting about 5 to 6 receptions per game, which Chase Brown's okay, right? He's not the most athletic running back when it comes to pass catching. He gets plenty of targets. Now, he did come off of a game where he had 6 receptions and then a game of 8 receptions. It's not necessarily his normal game. He usually gets about 2 to 3 receptions per game, but he is getting targeted heavily because the Bengals are obviously going to need to pass. There is a chance, don't get me wrong, that Chase Brown ends up getting similar targets, 8 to 10, because obviously no Jahmyr Chase. Joe Burrow may come back this week. We'll see how that plays out. And so maybe that helps Chase Brown a little bit, but I don't love the matchup. The Patriots are a really good defensive team. This is a matchup where I think if you have Chase Brown and you don't have any other options, you're going to put him in. But for me, realistically, I'm going to look to see maybe some sleepers that I'm going to mention, or maybe some players you could possibly put in there, because I do worry that Chase Brown ends up having a dud and you're going to end up having a possible loss this week. Another running back I don't like is Breece Hall versus the Ravens. Breece Hall obviously has been up and down, right? All season he's been up and down. And a lot of it is because the Jets are up and down. Jets have not played really well all season. And that kind of reflects. Now, against the Patriots, which I just mentioned about Chase Brown, Breece Hall only put up 8 fantasy points. Now, the week before that, he put up 19 against Cleveland, which was actually phenomenal. A lot had to do with that reception for 40 yards and a touchdown. That helped save him. That right there was 10 points. Otherwise, he would have had a 9-point game. Now, he did have a great game against the Bengals with 30 fantasy points, but that's it. He has not played, again, really good since week 7. Actually, week 6, he's struggled. And so for me, this is a really tough matchup. The Ravens are actually a pretty good defense team against running backs. They've improved. They've had some struggles. They are allowing about 4.6 yards per carry, so there's a possibility. But I do believe that this is going to be a game that they're going to be too far behind. Maybe Breece Hall saves you because he's getting some receptions, because Breece Hall is a good receiving back. But again, really tough one for me. And the last running back I'm going to say is going to be Kenneth Gainwell versus the Bears. I actually like Kenneth Gainwell. I think he may end up being the starting back this week. We'll see how Jalen Warren plays out. And Gainwell has been a great receiving back, and that's where you may have some value with him. But the Bears are actually a pretty good defense against the running back. Now, the running back position, they have allowed 4 receptions per game. So that is where you may have some possibility, which is why Gainwell is kind of hard to sit completely. He might be a flex play depending on how your roster is built, because Gainwell has played well. But I do think that the Bears put up enough points that maybe it keeps it kind of close where he's not completely being a pass-catching back, which is where I think the Steelers have had to utilize him. I don't know if he's going to be necessarily the back that you want to put in, in between the lines, between the guard and the center or the tackle. And I worry that because of the hot hand that he had last week, I think he's going to be the guy everyone puts in, kind of like Sean Tucker. I didn't mention him, and then he ends up struggling. So for me, I'm going to sit Kenneth Gainwell. Now, as far as sleepers, I've got Alvin Kamara versus the Falcons. The Falcons are a team that have been struggling. Plus, you got a team that is desperate right now. You got Kirk Cousins at quarterback with Michael Penix out. You have no Drake London. I do think the Saints actually end up being victorious in this game, and I think a lot of it's going to be through the air with Alvin Kamara and Olave, and through the ground, obviously, with Alvin Kamara. So I do think there's a possibility that he has a nice little 15 to 18 point game. I love it this week. And then Woody Marks versus the Bills. The Bills have actually been a team that's been allowing a lot of rushing yards, over a stupid amount for a linebacking core that has not played well. They're undersized. They don't have Ed Oliver in the middle to plug it up and help those linebackers out. So Woody Marks has played pretty well. I do like him this week. I don't know if he's going to get enough catches to make up for it, but I do think he gets, 80 to 90 yards on the ground. I think he has that capability this week. I think the Texans want to try to keep it close. So those are my start, sits, and sleepers for week 12 of the NFL season. If you guys do have questions, hit me up in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. I'll check you guys out next time.